The rain was still pouring when I woke up in the hospital bed, my body aching from the car crash. My hands were bruised, my ribs hurt with every breath, and my mind was clouded with painkillers. The nurse told me I was lucky to be alive. My first thought was to reach for my phone and call my husband. Surely, he would be worried sick. Surely, he'd be by my side, holding my hand, thanking God that I had survived. But when I called, his phone went straight to voicemail. Hours passed, and still no sign of him. I asked the nurse again if maybe someone had tried to visit me, but she shook her head. I felt a lump in my throat, but I brushed it off. Maybe he was busy, maybe he was in shock, maybe he was arranging something for me. I refused to believe anything worse. But as night fell, I scrolled through social media on my phone, and that's when I saw it. A photo of my husband dressed in a sharp suit, sitting across a dinner table with a woman I didn't recognize. My heart stopped. My husband wasn't grieving or worrying. He was enjoying fine dining with another woman while I lay in a hospital bed, broken and alone. The caption of the post made it worse. Dinner with the most charming man. My chest tightened, not from the accident, but from betrayal. How could he choose this woman over me in my moment of need? I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. The pain in my body was too much. Instead, I called his phone again, and again, and again, but no answer. At that moment, I knew he wasn't coming. He had made his choice. Anger began to burn inside me, hotter than the pain of broken bones. The next morning, I explained everything to the police officer who came to take my accident statement. I don't know what made me share my suspicion, but maybe it was the way he looked at me with concern, unlike my husband. I told him I thought my husband didn't care because he was out with another woman while I was fighting for my life. The officer's expression hardened. He asked for details, and I showed him the photo I had found. That's when things shifted. The officer asked if I knew the woman. I said no. He frowned and made a call. Minutes later, he returned and told me the woman in the picture was known to them. She was under investigation for fraud and had been connected to several criminal cases. My husband wasn't just out on a date. He was involved with someone dangerous. My shock turned into a strange mixture of fear and relief. Fear, because I realized how deep my husband's betrayal went. Relief, because at least now I knew the truth. It wasn't me he cared about, it was whatever this woman represented. The officer promised to keep me updated, but he advised me to stay cautious. 2 days later, my husband finally appeared at the hospital, acting like nothing had happened. He brought flowers, kissed my forehead, and asked how I was feeling. I stared at him, my heart heavy with disgust. He thought I was still blind, still the loving wife who would forgive anything. But I stayed quiet, waiting. That evening, 2 plainclothes officers came to my hospital room. They told me they had enough evidence to bring both my husband and the woman in for questioning. Apparently, he had been helping her hide money connected to her scams. My accident had just given the police the time they needed to track him down. The next day, I watched from my hospital window as police escorted my husband out of the hospital lobby in handcuffs. He looked shocked, angry, betrayed, but this time, I felt nothing. It was his turn to feel abandoned. In the days that followed, I focused on healing. Physically, I grew stronger with each session of therapy. Emotionally, I was still raw, but knowing that justice was being served gave me strength. My husband's betrayal had cut deep, but his downfall gave me closure. The woman he had chosen over me tried to disappear, but the police caught her too. Both of them faced charges, and my husband was forced to pay heavy fines. Everything he had worked for crumbled in front of him, all because he couldn't stay loyal, all because he chased a fantasy while I lay in a hospital bed. Sometimes at night, I think back to that moment in the hospital when I realized he wasn't coming. That was the moment I truly let go of him. I realized I didn't need a man who abandoned me at my weakest. I needed strength of my own. Now, when people ask me about the scars on my body, I don't just tell them about the car crash. I tell them about survival. I tell them about betrayal and how it set me free. And I tell them about justice, How the police made him pay, not just in money, but in dignity. Because sometimes, the greatest crash isn't the one with twisted metal and broken glass. It's the one that shatters your trust. And sometimes, the cleanup is exactly what you need to finally start fresh.